steadfastly concerned I'm going to run out of jokes about how to talk about human ejaculate. It's V'ger Please, a heinous trip at Warp 5. My name is Joseph.
And I'm the only other guy at the lunch table willing to talk to you about Star Trek, Peter.
Peter, what episode of Star Trek did we watch this week?
Season 1, Episode 22, Vox Sola. Disclaimer: if you are triggered or somehow put through mental duress, or you just flat out don't want to hear at least 300 mentions of cum shots, you need to get the fuck out of this episode right now. Just turn us off.
Yeah, my esteemed colleague is 100% correct. We are going to be talking about the cum monster and all of his adventures for the next hour-ish, and we will not shy away from this joke. We will be leaning in and getting it hot and sticky all over us and everyone around us. That includes you.
Skeet, motherfucker.
If you cannot handle this, we understand. But that's what we're about today, and we'll see you next week. We love you. We appreciate you. But this is the cum monster episode, and we ain't getting away from that.
How in the fuck did they make this? This first aired the day before my birthday, May 1st, 2002. Telepay, Fred Decker. Story by Rick Berman, Bran Braga, Fred Decker. Directed by Roxanne Dawson.
Yeah.
Balana. Mm-hmm. What else has Fred Decker done? Let me pull this little.
So maybe we can find some sort of cum-related Fred Decker, like,
as a writer. He only seems to have Enterprise under it. The Andorian Incident, which was dope. Sleeping Dogs. Meh. And then this, rightfully so, was his last involvement with.
Do you think that like he went to go write another one, and they're like, "Bro, you gave us the cum monster episode.
No,
you're
didn't
cut off here.
Listen,
you're cut off here."
I think that this guy got used as the whipping boy, and that someone higher up the Paramount food chain saw this fucking thing and said, "Bring me someone's head on a silver plate." And then Berman and Braga were like, "Oh shit. Okay, well, we fired that guy. He's not going to be around again." Looking at this memory alpha, it is anemic, even for Enterprise. Not a single mention in here of anything semen related.
I guess they're trying to keep it family friendly, but there is no way they didn't understand what they were doing, right, Peter? Right? Like, there's
was it like a sexist, like, we're going to give Roxanne an episode that is literally just fucking on-screen bukkake.
Yeah, just a giant bukkake hive mind starts spreading its slimy cum all over the cast, bit by bit, binding them together.
Was the working title for this script Jizztacular?
There's no way they didn't know, right? That's what I was struck by. It was like, I was watching this, kind of like this, analyzing it, going back a few frames, watching it again, and like seeing the sheen and like the particular quality of the exact consistency of the fluid that I just really looked at, and I said, they knew that this is what they were doing. There's no accidents here.
You can't make it red because it looked like blood. Blue, purple, green, fucking yellow. You could have made this black. Make it like fucking Venom. If that was like a symbiote, if that was a black tar Aramis Skin of Evil looking thing that had people like all spider webbed up and like psychically connecting them and like this symbiote hive mind. Oh, wow. Now that I think about it, like, yeah, this could have been way more interesting, but to make it fucking pale white, Pearl Jam, a 1-for-1 ratio to come with fucking tentacles grabbing people.
Mm-hmm.
It's bonkers. And like by the 3/4 through the episode, I'm just and the fucking tentacles are like slithering over people's face. It's dripping off of them. It's all over the place. I'm like, am I watching some fucking like early 90s Japanese X-rated anime? Like, it's a tentacle monster that is just slathering people in fucking jizz the entire episode.
Do you think that the people who had to make the buckets and buckets of fake cum that were used in this episode, as they churned out the cum, ever had a moment where they thought to themselves, I have chosen the wrong profession?
I'm wondering
I'm
if
in the
they're
wrong
like,
field.
if everybody just thought this was fucking hilarious and that, you know, oh my God, this is going to be so funny. It's just going to look like fuck. I don't know if you guys out there know what bukkake is, but I mean, this is one for the fucking books. And then it's like you tell your really raunchy joke and it just falls flat on its face. And then everybody's like, oh God,
Well,
we're going to get fired.
They have to avoid invoking the joke on screen. That's why it doesn't work, right? Like this giant cum monster, bukkake is all over the characters involved, and they never can acknowledge that's what's happening because you're on network television, right? You can't even like wink at it. You have to ignore it. Well, it makes it so the joke doesn't land. The joke's only funny if everyone knows it's a joke.
There is somehow more semen in this episode than there was in the Star Trek Next Gen XXX porn parody.
So much more. This is the Star Trek XXX porn parody right here. That's what this is.
You're right, and the porn parody was a real episode of Star Trek.
It was. It was filled with rich continuity and everything.
This is ridiculous. So, you know, we start off in the episode. It's so hard for me to even think what the fucking plot of this was. And it seems so inconsequential, but I noticed in the beginning, there's a couple close-up shots. You know, in Voyager, people treated the zipper on their jumpsuit kind of like... My friend who went to Catholic school told me that, like...
We call that Catholic school, but go on.
Well, it's just for girls.
It's still a school. It's Catholic school.
This is Catholic school, girls' school. Anyways, okay. Did you go to Catholic school, girls' school?
I went to Catholic school, boys' school.
Well, that's not... I bet you guys weren't, you know, seeing who could roll your skirt up. They'd roll the waistband on their skirt to make the skirts shorter.
Oh, yeah,
The more popular you were, that was how you showed, like, your social status was you would have, like, the shortest skirt. So, on Voyager, like, the more cool and rogue you were, the further down you wore your zipper. So Tuvok would have his uniform all the way zipped up, whereas like Tom and some of these other Maquis guys, Dalby, those guys, they were unzipped pretty far. And then like, you know, Kim had his up pretty high, whatever. All these Enterprise dudes have theirs at the exact same level. There's no social status there. It's like that zipper may as well just not continue all the way up. Completely insignificant to the assimilation bukkake we're going to go into.
It's insignificant to all of the plot lines in this episode. So
that is the one wholesome thing I can say about this episode was that I noticed the jumpsuit zippers.
So the teaser is about a first contact going poorly. Hoshi is attempting to placate angry guests who are wanting to leave.
Admiral Forrest.
Admiral Forrest is playing the lead alien. Hey, do you think that like actually it's Admiral Forrest dressing up as these aliens in character? Yeah, like that because Earth spaceflight is actually quite advanced, and this is just like a complicated training thing for captains.
Because Admiral Forrest is a Starfleet admiral and ergo batshit insane, and that's he's like. Did you watch Birdman at all?
The film?
No, like
Harvey Birdman, Attorney at Law.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, two different Birdmen, but yes.
What was his Silver One or Skyhawk? His crazy boss, played by Colbert, right?
Yeah, Stephen Colbert.
Like that's what I imagine Forrest really is, and like he's just tormenting Archer with these goofy costumes he gets on and puts him through all sorts of hoops.
Ha ha! Dangly parts.
Jizz monster.
I mean, it makes perfect sense. He's got a ship. He's got all of his dudes. They all dress in a different type of alien makeup. They come up with some crazy language, that no one can decipher. And they're like, and then we're going to give him the cum monster.
Mhm.
Like, guys, it's going to be a hoots. Who'll wait until they're watching a
Then we're
rousing.
going to turn Cargo Bay 2 into Camp Cumshot.
So it goes poorly. Hoshi can't translate. They seem to be offended by how they were eating. They demand to leave. They leave. And that is when the cum monster comes on board. Okay, teaser over.
Awful CGI. This
It
is.
is.
There
It
was
is.
something else where they had slime crawling around in Voyager, and I can't remember which episode it was, but slime never looks good sliming around.
No, it always looks cheap. It always looks primitive because we're too early for the liquid effects to look good, right?
And while we're here talking about Voyager for a moment, whereas what was the too much or perfectly good waste of Vodo?
Oasis.
And someone in the, I think it was the Discord group, said, it felt like any other episode of Star Trek because it was an episode of DS. And I like, there's an antidote in Memory Alpha where, Renee even told fucking Archer or Bakula, like, yeah, this script's bullshit. We already did this. But that's a lot of Star Trek is retreads. And in the same vein of retreading, this is basically just the fucking episode where Species 8472 gets on board, and instead of like beaming it into the sun, Voyager befriends it and tries.
I was going to say
it's
it's actually The Haunting of Deck 12. It's Sparky. That's what it's more like.
Sparky was wholesome.
Yeah, he was a valuable member of the crew.
Friendly. He was shooting people in the face and mouth, but it was with burning electricity, not nut. This fucking awful CGI abomination gets in, and you might sit there and be like, man, this CGI looks like shit. I'm tired of looking at this. And then they hit you with the practical effects, and you go, you know what? Actually, maybe I would like to see this terrible CGI again after all.
So the B plot to this episode, and is the second time something like this has happened, is that Hoshi is trying to have a better relationship with her boss, because like she's kind of like being a bitch to T'Pol, and T'Pol's actually very reasonable from the beginning, and is really not her fault that Hoshi's just like having a bad day and being bad at translating things. And it's like this very low stakes B plot that are happening literally parallel to the captain of this vessel and the chief engineer slowly be getting mind wiped by a cum monster.
Well, you know what? I'll take the B plot over the C plot, which is Archer really wants everybody to think that water polo is cool.
Oh, you didn't agree with Archer's strict water polo fandom is truly a great sport?
No.
Soccer, except everyone is, slowly swimming instead of moving quickly.
Water polo being cool was just about as believable as that shot where the CGI slime monster's like slinking around, and they show Porthos laying in his bed and he starts barking, and I'm like, that looks like brand new carpeting, and that bed is immaculate. There's a 0.0 chance that Archer's floor does not have any dog fur on it whatsoever. I don't know what cleaning robots they have in the future, but it will put my Roomba to fucking shame.
I think that the best thing you can say about water polo is that it is a intensely athletic sport that no one likes. And you can tell because only rich white people play it.
I think the real goal of that is to reinforce that Trip is a dude and willing to watch boring bullshit to get his friend out of a funky mood.
Yeah, that's like supposed to be the nice character moment is, Trip's a bro, get some beers and pretzels, and they put on the sports ball. It's just
pretzels in the same goofy rectangular bowl that they eat popcorn and all other snacks. There's a strict rule on Enterprise that all snacks must be served in the most obtuse, goofy bowl possible. And on the subject of food, again, now that I've talked about it, I cannot unsee it. There's so much food in Enterprise. They're eating fucking prime rib for dinner in the mess hall.
What is this, a fucking Bellagio buffet? Jesus.
What was the food budget for the Enterprise production team? It has to be huge. There's probably more food spent this season, more money spent on food than there was transporter effects.
I mean, they figure like, hey, we only got so much more time to be making these shows. Let's blow out the craft services budget a little bit. We'll skimp on our CGI here.
Here's the deal. We are going to be having you guys naked all the time. So in your contracts, you are never allowed to eat unless it is for a scene. So we're going to be generous and give you guys some pretty good food, prime rib steaks, a lot of broth for you, Jolene Blaylock, because we got to keep you really, really thin. But you can only eat on set, and there will be a lot of eating, so you don't starve and die. But that's the rule you got to play by if you want to be on Enterprise.
So there's a movie that's happening in the mess hall. It's like some French movie, and they start to try and turn it on, and things aren't working. And so uh, Reed calls to engineering to be like, "Hey, what's going on?" And
Mm-mm.
two nobodies.
Don't you skim over it, Joe.
What?
They're trying to watch this movie, and they go to tune it in, but they're not getting the movie. The system's acting glitchy, which they never really explain why. Is it because cum monsters eating energy or something?
He keeps trying to trip over to the Cinemax, but it's just it's fuzzy because
What are they
cable
clicking
box.
over to instead?
Okay, yeah. I guess you're not gonna pass this one by.
No. Mm-mm. Even way back when they have internal CCTV that's closed circuit security cameras.
Yes, they have security cameras
presumably recording things that are happening at various duty stations across the ship, which we are watching.
Yeah, in like a billion years in the past of Voyager, there they are.
So the first time something happens and they try to be like, oh, it's a mystery. What happened here? And they don't go, you know what? Let's check the security cameras real quick.
Oh, they had security cameras on Voyager. There was a whole episode about it.
Oh, I remember. I got pissed about it then. But I'm saying, I saw it. There's going to be no excuses. It's the first time there's a mystery and like, we don't know who flushed that fucking candy bar wrapper down the toilet and flooded it. I'm going to call bullshit real loud. That is the only thing of continuity that will matter out of this entire bucacalypse.
So there's two crewmen. One is Rostov, who's played by B'Elanna's old boyfriend from Muse.
Now, things that make you go,
Yeah, I got him covered in cum.
Did Roxanne Dawson have a relationship with this dude and some were there like some real late night line reading study / makeout sessions between these two? And then like finally Roxanne Dawson gets her chance in the big scene. It's like, I know the exact person we're going to use for a guest star.
I mean,
don't worry, baby, I got you.
I like that headcanon, like that this is his fetish, and that's why he was selected.
This is his girlfriend on the DL, and she's hooking him up with work.
I like that it's both, is what I'm saying. It can be both, work and pleasure here on Star Trek Enterprise. And then female crew member, just crewman Kelly.
No, it's not crewman Kelly. It's R. Kelly. Literally.
It's J. Kelly.
Is it Jake? I'm pretty sure it was R. Kelly.
It's J. Kelly. You wish it was R. Kelly.
Cum's not going to be the only bodily fluid flying around this episode. J. Kelly, damn it.
Gotcha. So I do like you saw they have enlisted badges, and the enlisted badges are more similar to Navy enlisted badges. So they are like crewman first class because they've got 3 bars there, and they're in charge when everyone at night or whatever, or on the swing shift, right? Like when the officers have time off, some of the enlisted are, taking over, making sure everything's working. And they got to go, deal with this power surge in this cargo bay. And that's when B'Elanna's old boyfriend goes in there and is immediately snatched up by the cup monster. And then Kelly goes in, and Kelly gets snatched up by the cum monster.
So the cum monster first strikes with these milky white CGI tentacles that are just permanently bathed in thick, viscous semen.
Yes.
And I thought, oh my God, how could they do this? Little did I know the true depths that we would be thinking to here. Like my initial notes were like incredulous, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe. But all of that stuff just pales in comparison to the cumtastic heights this episode will achieve by the end.
I'm just saying that if these crew members had been randomly younger Japanese extras, that would have been enough of an acknowledgement of the joke to make it funny. You know, like, they were so close to actually acknowledging this joke if they had just done something like that, you know? Would that have been too much?
You're trying to describe an analogy where there's a wink, wink, nod, nod hentai, right?
Well, that they're acknowledging that there's some. Yes, this is a giant, stupid cum monster, right? Like,
Yeah, but the acknowledgement there is like, ha ha ha,
mm-hmm.
hentai tentacle porn. That's not what this is. Just like either Berman or Braga's like actual fetish, and they have never watched any anime in their life, and it just so happens to be, like, maybe after that someone showed them hentai, or like, and they were like, oh my god, where's this been all my life? This is exactly my fetish. I made an episode of Star Trek, actually. I got in a lot of trouble. I got this Fred Decker guy. Nobody, like, he got burned. Nobody will work with that guy after this fucking thing came out. But, like, man, if I would have seen this, like, I'm in the wrong business. I should have been making this hentai. God,
Fred Decker works at Target now. Like, that's what his fate was.
Geez, Mark's might be too region. A gas station. Fred Decker works at Speedways now.
No, he's got the intelligence that comes with being a professional writer. He's working at Best Buy. You know, like, he's a shift lead at Best Buy.
He's making some really good home theater audio recommendations.
He is. He understands the industry. You don't understand. He wrote some scripts.
Yeah. He used to live in Hollywood, you know.
Yeah. So, but, before he moved back to Sheboygan, now he's Sheboygan teeth too. So the two jabronis get snatched up by the cum monster. They got to cut off bro time, and
during pro time there is a mention, though, I did enjoy where, and again, I'm just going to assume that Tripp's blowing smoke up Archer's ass and like feigning interest in all this crap just because he's a good dude. But Archer goes, it wouldn't be practical to put a pool on a ship, would it? Which is funny because we just watched all those what's it called, half screen, those YouTube videos with the guy doing like the deck by deck analysis of the different Star Trek ships.
Oh yeah, and all of, and like the
1701 absolutely does have a fucking pool. So the next Enterprise could have water polo. That Archer
I do believe that, like, no actual writer of a television show of Star Trek probably ever knew that. Like, that is something that only exists within the nerd sphere of, oh, we're gonna put a fucking pool in this drawing.
I want to like get every Star Trek writer from Next Gen in a room together, like at a convention panel, blah blah blah. And everybody's like, the captain's what? The captain's yacht? There's a whole other ship attached to the bottom of the saucer? Why didn't anybody tell us? We could have told some really cool stories with that.
You nerds gotta let us know when you've got these fucking ideas.
What
the hell? Come on. And so in their civilian clothes, it's Tucker and Trip, and then Reed and some other guy. Right?
I like Jay Kelly, Mr. Red Shirt who didn't die. I like that the Jay Kelly calls in and it's not like intruder alert or red alert. It's just Captain, something might be wrong, maybe, and it's like the most casual thing ever.
I thought that where it was cut off, wasn't it? Though there's something here. Her tone of voice was a little off, but she was indicating that something was wrong.
No, she says there's an organism.
Yes.
It's very clear what the stakes are. I'm criticizing Archer, and again, this is part of the. There's no red alert. There's no intruder alert because those terms somehow don't exist yet for Starfleet.
Well, I mean, how about the term intruder alert? Like,
that's what I'm saying.
Hey, there's raise the alarm. Why? There's something here. Okay, like, you don't need a term for it.
There's something here. It already has one crew member who was under duress, and now it has the person who called me. Yeah, let's go down there with 4 guys. That sounds good. 4 people. Okay.
Anyway, they roll in, and now we have the practical effect cum monster. And the practical effect cum monster is absolutely the afterbirth of the biggest porn star orgy that ever existed in LA.
They walk in. One of them gets attacked by a CGI white penis tentacle slathered in jizz. And then they turn the flashlights and they discover jizz jail. And what I would have thought, if this is what you wanted to go for, the obvious thing is a spider, a space spider, and webbing. But no, it is flat when you're cutting up pork and you're pulling like the pork pieces apart, and there's like that
It's
mylar,
sinewiness. Yeah.
like a fasciitis or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Wet. Some of it's crusty, some of it's wet, some of it's a little yellowed. Like,
These are people who knew cum. They know their cum. They know the different kinds of viscosity of cum.
how do you, as
the
Roxanne
states of
Dawson,
cum.
say, you know what, I'm going to make this?
Did you
Like-
see? Did you see the memory alpha photos of her on set, where she's like got the monitor up in the cum room, and she's like looking at the exact like
Up in
texture.
Cum shot?
Yeah, the upfront cut. She's in the cum room. The cum is all around her. She's got a monitor in front of her of one of the extras covered in all of the cum, and she's like looking at it like it's the fucking Zapruder film. It is just amazing.
No, there needs to be some discoloration by Archer's face. It's not all going to be white all the time. If we're going to do this, we're going to do it right.
I'm just
You know
saying,
what?
at the end of this episode, these guys need STD tests. I mean, there's just no way they didn't pick something up from this. You know, this thing's been around the galaxy. It's been places.
So Reed continues to prove himself as the least badass person in Starfleet ever.
But very murderous.
Yeah.
Not effective, not particularly brave, but very inclined to kill things. Not a good combination, I'm just saying. Like,
It's kind of like psychopathic, really. Like, if anybody's going to be a serial killer on this crew, my gut instinct would be Mayweather, because nobody smiles and is that chipper that much, that plucky. But I think Reed would really be the guy like that has, jumping back to our discussion of Stranger Things season 4, like Vecna, that he's the one having mutilated bunnies all over his cabin.
well, he runs up after, all of the other characters that went with him wind up in the clutches of the cum monsters. Like, oi, governor! All of our main character has been captured by a bunch of G's. What we gonna do about it?
So let's try and get through this thing without getting bogged down with all the buckets and buckets of cum all over everybody's face. What's going to happen as time goes on, more and more of the characters are getting covered by cum, and we're going to find out that not only are they just dripping in jizz, but it's also creating a psychic link between them to shared collectiveness. I thought the assimilation angle was actually kind of interesting.
Yeah, so did I.
It would have been more interesting had the throwaway red shirts actually been like visibly starting to like
Disintegrate?
Yeah, like being digested, being like cellularly fused with this slime, and like maybe they rip someone out and like half their face is gone and like some gruesome shit's going on.
Yeah, they needed a body here. They needed to have a casualty. But I guess like because they wanted this thing to ultimately have just been a misunderstood life form at the end, if it killed anybody, that would have been a problem, I guess. But
again, that's a fail for this thing. Make a fucking monster that I can finally hate and revile after your numerous botched attempts. Like every fucking bad guy they've trotted out for the past 4 episodes, minus the goddamn rapist Ferengi, I've been able to sit here and say, well, Dean Stockwell wasn't that bad. Well,
and Oasis was Odo. He was the bad guy there, basically.
Who wasn't even a fucking bad guy. Acquisition, they were just shitheads. Generations, Soren was a good bad guy. Rogue Planet, the fucking Dick's Sporting Goods customers, not really great bad guys, or fully condemnable. Like, all right, let's finally, we haven't had just a straight up fucking space horse since those dudes from, what was it, Silence? Was that the name of that episode with like the Mars tax guys?
I would say, yeah, they were clearly bad guys. I guess the Nausicaans were clearly bad guys, but they're also not very threatening.
Yeah, there were clearly bad guys at
Oh, the
first. We just
space
let 'em-
spider people. They were sucking out people's
Yeah,
juices.
yeah.
We just never got to see them.
There's no like real stakes on the table because this thing's not like decomposing people and doing like horror movie shit to them. At no point do they think like maybe we should try using the transporter to beam people out of there. That was weak as fuck. They try some like ultraviolet lights. Those don't work hot. At no point does anybody think, hey, maybe we should just kill it with fire. I'd really like to see some Federation flamethrower. I'm sorry, Starfleet flamethrowers.
So they start working through different ways to affect it. The EM radiation beams are the first thing, but it reacts by like clamping down on all their crew members. And as you noted, as each progressive scene occurs within the cum matrix, they do have to increase the level of jizz density on each of the characters very carefully, probably with a brush, applying more layers of crusty, flaky cum substance.
If this would have been like black symbiote goo, this would have looked fucking sweet. Like the fact that this is jizz jail aside, like they did a pretty good job like having parts move and slither wet while other parts were like stationary. Practically speaking,
this is finally crafted ejaculate. No doubt about it. This is very extraordinarily precisely done, which again leads to the no one did this on accident like revelation, because there's no way you could be this deep in the monitor looking at your cum monster thinking that that's not exactly what you
How
made.
many people have beat off watching like this is their fetish and this is the holy grail of live action bukkake apocalypse?
I have a follow-up question for you on that.
Did I jerk off to this?
No. Is the total quantity of cum produced by jacking off to this material equal to, less than, or greater than the volume of the cum monster itself as portrayed?
Now we're talking about like the gooey stuff around the tentacles, like the cum stains on the floor, or the entire white production?
I'm going to see the entire Matrix. So you're saying that this is...
No way.
Okay.
No, I don't know, man. We factor in China. That's like the way you throw all statistics off.
I mean, this is a global show now. There has been wank to this from everywhere, from New York to the hinterlands of China.
This show or clips of this episode may just be on xvideos.com and people will just watch it not even knowing it's Star Trek and be like,
it's 20 years old.
There's this episode of fucking Quantum Leap where Scott Bakula is just covered in jizz, and man, like every time I watch it, it's just
20 years, an entire generation of people have had the capacity.
I'm amazed that I've never heard about this. I heard about Threshold. Like I've heard about the spectacularly bad the final episode of Enterprise. I know is going to be the Riker Troy scene.
Mm-hmm.
I have never once heard someone make a joke about this, and I don't understand. Am I just going to mentally block it after this episode that we are currently recording, and just like season 3 of Stranger Things, just make myself forget about it?
I think this is the fact that this has not emerged into the consciousness of nerd culture the way some of the other things you have mentioned is because of how blatantly a cum monster it is, and so that's just hard to talk about the same way.
Crusher fucking a ghost
was easier to conceive of.
Is every other meme in most Star Trek posting groups on Facebook.
Yeah,
I've seen her breathing in like Crusher's a pothead and Crusher fucks ghosts everywhere.
Yeah.
Never even seen a single screen cap of these guys just dripping with goo. So back to Reed.
But by the way, that is permission for our fan base to go to Star Trek Shift posting and start posting cum memes. It's like as much Enterprise cum monster memes as you possibly can. I want to see some high numbers. I want to see some high achievers.
We'll have to see what kind of clips are on YouTube, because now that I know how to make my own GIFs, it's on. You know what? Hey, how about the guy who's been making the Funimation style recreations of Next Gen, and then they did the one for Voyager
This
Threshold?
is clearly the
What
Enterprise
if
episode.
this
Yeah.
is the one they do for Enterprise? Ugh.
Oh.
Uh, so they're trying to figure out. A tentacle almost gets Reed, but he shuts a door and it cuts it off, and then he takes it to Phlox, and he's like, "We need to experiment. Tell me what this is." And Phlox is like, "Oh, I think it's kind of sentient." And then Reed comes back in and says, "This is the fucking stupid part to me, is that Starfleet has been on the verge of perfecting shields. What do they call it? An EM field?"
Correct.
That's the second time they've used the term EM field. You jump back to the Lizard Olive Garden, Planet Olive Garden episode, right? And that's
they described their shielding in that
as
fashion.
EM shielding. But they're coming up with different ideas. Hoshi's like, I think I can maybe communicate with it. And then T'Pol's like, that's stupid. Try and find the Admiral Forrest and his cosplay group and see if we can't like figure some stuff out. And then Reed's like, I think I might have something. Starfleet's been talking about these shields, but like they can't perfect it. And then I'm going to lead you to believe that somehow the fucking armory officer of a starship under duress is going to be the guy who figures out shielding, quite possibly one of the three most important technologies to Starfleet.
Yeah, warp drive, deflector, dish, shielding.
Transporters, maybe replicators, like big fucking deal. And that got me off on a side tangent. We're painting Reed as now the smart guy on the vessel. It doesn't fit. You go into Next Gen, Data, Wesley Crusher, LaForge. There's the brain trust, right? Each of those people super genius, and then occasionally special guest star Barclay, right?
Right.
It's the flagship. It's the super enlightened 24th century. It's a fucking ship with 1,000 people on it. It's the best of the best of the best, and they've been doing this a long time. Any of those guys coming up with this, I buy it. Jump to Voyager, you got Kim, who's a prodigal son, or I'm sorry, this real whiz
He's
kid.
a prodigy, yeah.
Janeway, who I thought they did a really good job establishing her as a scientist. B'Elanna, who was a pretty cool nerd. 7 of 9, Icheb. Lots of smart people there. Like, I have no hard time taking any of these traditional Starfleet crews and being like, these are scientists and they are chock full of super geniuses. It's not a vibe I get off of Enterprise at all. You cut Phlox out of there, and I'm hard pressed to call any of these people abnormally intelligent scientists.
I would say they've properly put Hoshi into, she is an expert in linguistics, but that is it.
Trip should be, but Trip feels more like a greasy mechanic with a get her done attitude.
They have not portrayed Trip as particularly like an outlier in his competency as an engineer, merely that he is, an expert at this thing. There's probably not a lot of people who are. They could have done a better job of applying that. But yeah, like the fact
even
that
T'Pol.
Well, T'Pol discovered the secret Vulcan black holes.
I
Remember?
know, it's my favorite part of that episode. But I think I like the fact she's a science officer and like she's good at math, but she doesn't have that creative spark. She's not a miracle worker. And for them to use Reed in this role, I can't give you a better one other than maybe Trip or maybe T'Pol, but those don't feel good. And Reed certainly doesn't feel like the right place for this.
Eventually, they come up with the solution to all three of these. To all three of these questions. Reed somehow gets this EM field to work just because he figures it out.
The smartest person in Starfleet now. There he is, folks.
T'Pol and Hoshi overcome their weird workplace drama that they even spend time like talking about when they're in the middle of trying to crack this like weird calculus code of being able to speak the language of this creature.
On that entire subplot there, I felt like that was a big miss because of Sleeping Dogs, where they had a good connection.
They literally already did this plot. Like, why didn't we already solve this?
I thought that they were going to go with hey, have you been practicing those techniques? you can do better than this. Like, let's take your logic training to the next step, or a refresher course or something. Not, hey, we appear to be at odds and sleeping dogs never happen and we're going to bicker.
For whatever reason, it's like they acted like all of their character growth together hadn't actually happened. I don't know why.
Oh,
especially because this guy.
Look at that. Roxanne Dawson stuck him with a bad case of the Balanas.
Oof. Oof. And the contact with Admiral, I was going to say Admiral Vaughn.
Forrest.
Yeah. Admiral Forrest in
Crazy
his cosplay
Admiral
outfit.
Forrest.
Crazy Admiral Forrest is left to Mayweather.
Admiral Forrest, we need help. No, you will call me by my alien name. I hate this guy. Worst boss ever.
Mayweather is the literal only person on the bridge because everyone else is busy doing like science and shit or being trapped by a cum monster. And he talks to them and they're like, "We figured out your language now, human." And it's just clearly why it's Admiral Forrest fucking with him, because now he's just talking normally. And he's like, "You insulted us because you ate in front of us. You must apologize or we will not help you." And he's like, "I'm sorry." And they're like, "Okay then, here's where you should go to dump off the cum monster.
You need to apologize." And watching Mayweather sit there with his chunk of dialogue and apologize, this plucky, earnest, watching him act, it feels like watching Michael Jackson in like the old 80s Jackson movies.
Yeah, something off. Something's not right.
Like, what is your day job? Because I don't think acting is your primary thing. It feels very...
Are you working your shift at In-N-Out Burger after this? Like,
no,
what's going on?
Like, he's like really talented at doing something else. Like, he's a really great woodworker and like, or a world-class violinist. He does a little bit of acting, and he should not do the little bit of acting. He should focus on his day job. I don't know. But watching him do that, like the fact he wouldn't just be like, "Hold on, let me get my boss real quick." Two of the most important people in this ship are stuck in Jizz jail. And I'm going to take it upon myself to maybe try to parlay with you and hope I don't cause an even bigger international. Just like the ability
I'm the 20-year-old bus driver. I don't know shit from Dick. Like, and I'm going to try and ease over this interspatial, incident so that we can save the captain.
A chunk of my brain is a quarter of an inch off because of a transporter incident. Let's talk. And then the fucking Admiral Force like, "Is this fucking guy serious? You sure this translator's working? Nobody can act like this." Hey, yeah, here's the coordinates. This is where you need to go back. So it all comes together like the Planeteers assembling to summon Captain Planet. Reed goes in there with his brand new radical paradigm shifting technology of shields and sets up a little deflector grid.
Get your tentacles away from our Asian. You can't have her.
Just have Hoshi have gotten abducted initially. I mean, you could have had
that would have, like, maybe she's trying to figure out a way to communicate it while she's captured.
While she's in there.
That would have made actually plot sense, but all right.
And then she comes in with the Universal Translator and T'Pol, and what could have been a very sexy tentacle attack on them instead becomes talking, dueling banjos or fiddles. And I've really got shades of... do you remember in The Void? There were the little space gremlins that I think
talk via music, if I recall.
Who befriended those? Was that
the
Kim?
Doctor?
Oh, it was the EMH, yeah. Look, we gave them musical instruments, and now they can talk. And that's what this is. And luckily, this Bukkake monster is super reasonable, and it's like, oh, cool, we can talk now. Yeah. Maybe it won't crush everybody to death.
They seem dehydrated. They're drained. And... we'll let them go. They need to go clean up. They've had a rough one. Get them some Gatorade. They need some electrolytes.
A cigarette, maybe.
Yeah.
What was the point in Jizz Jail assimilating them? Like, I thought it would have been cool if like they had started losing their personalities and the monster would have talked to them through like, Archer saying every other word and then Trip filling in some, and then Planet Grease playwright, he could like talk in there and they could have done a little...
Yeah, that would have been cool. They didn't do that, though.
consciousness thing. No.
Especially if Hoshi had actually been captured by the Jizz Monster and she was using her, personality and influence to get it to communicate that way as a way to bridge the
Wow.
gap.
Look at
Yeah.
that.
We even fixed the Jizz Monster episode, Peter. Look at this.
I don't want to fix the Jizz Monster. This fucking thing should have been killed with fire. Or, again, just beam the fucking people out of there. This is ridiculous. So
Instead of killing it with fire, they communicate, they release everybody, they get to the planet where it's from, they beam down, and
the planet Jizz.
the planet to planet Cum, and they release the
Cum
piece
Bucket Prime.
Cum Bucket Prime. They enter orbit around the Cum Bucket system and head to Cum Bucket 3, and they head to the spot.
If we're at this part in our episode, by the way, and you're shaking your head, you're just fucking sick of hearing us talk like this, shame on you. You were warned.
Yeah, we told you straight at the beginning. This is what we were going to do today. It's how
this isn't our fault. This is Rick Berman's fault.
This was done to us. We are being tortured so that you can be amused.
If you have not seen this episode, you need to watch this episode. This is so
you
fucking
have to
bonkers.
See it to believe it.
How did this get through censors?
Because they don't acknowledge the joke. Because it's not cum unless you say it is. That's actually the defense. The kayfabe matters.
You might think that we're talking about this too much. This is literally 85% of the episode is nut dripping off people's face.
Shot that they do on the surface before they do the effect and they leave is fucking Phlox opening the extra case with the extra tentacle in it, and inside the case is a cum stain. It's just that is
a prehensile dick. There's a dolphin dick in there,
and it slithers off, and it leaves a cum stain, a clear, semi-translucent, milky white cum stain, lovingly crafted and placed within that case for that shot that they linger on for like half a second.
Let's jump over to Phlox real quick. There's a beef between him and Reed, where Reed comes in to get the sample of the monster, and he needs to test it aggressively with the new shields he's perfecting. And then Phlox is like, no, the way you're doing this is basically torture, and I think this thing is sentient life. There's another way to get the information you want, but it's going to take about an hour. And then Reed's like, well, the captain might be dead by then, and this is a hostile creature, or that's the way that I perceive it as the fucking security chief, armory officer, whatever. I'm also the ranking officer on the ship right now. And then Phlox is like, well, not in my sick bay, even though I'm not even in a fucking Starfleet uniform. And then Reed's just like, oh, let my balls shrivel up as I completely back off and say, okay, fine then, we'll do it your way. This is Reed the hothead who hot-wired the fucking phasers to run directly off the warp core and almost blew the goddamn ship up. Ridiculous. So Reed, I think Reed sucks at this point. I don't like Reed as a character, and they're going to have to do some work to fix him. I want to talk about Phlox real quick, and I really kind of racked my brain to come up with like how I was going to drag Dear Doctor in and say like anything he's doing is hypocritical here. But I think this is the first time since Dear Doctor, that Phlox has been relevant to a scene and taking a stance, and like what he's doing here does not immediately clash with his actions in Dear Doctor. And
actually, I would say it's strikingly similar in that he has this different view of medical ethics, and that he cannot take this action against this life form, even though there's obviously an exigent reason why you should do so. And whatever they do to this thing is likely to be less harmful than, Archer being dead. Yet he says, no, this is not aligned with my ethics. It kind of lines up in a weird way.
I would have liked to see a scene with Reed where once it's all said and done, that Reed's like, Captain, I need to talk to you real quick. So Phlox kind of was okay with you dying in a bucket of jizz because of ethics, and we need to keep an eye on him. And like Archer being like, ooh, maybe I've been taking bad advice. Something to think about. I don't know. I'm sick of talking about cum. I was sick of talking about cum like 5 minutes into this episode. I didn't want to talk about cum as much as we did, but the episode demanded it, Joe.
What episode is coming for us next? That was my last one, I swear to Jesus. And cum.
We're moving into season 1, episode 23, Fallen Hero. There's T'Pol, Trip and Archer, and some old lady that just walked on the ship. Enterprise is sent to the planet Mazar to pick up a Vulcan ambassador who has been expelled for misconduct. I like the way that sounds. Do you remember this, Joe?
We're finally gonna have a good one.
I was listening to not a good waste of Odo. Yeah, it was a good waste of Odo, because in the next episode we were talking about was Displaced, or whatever the Dean Stockwell was.
Mm-hmm.
And you said the Dean Stockwell episode was going to be good. So I like how rusty your memory is on this stuff. But you think this is going to be a good one too?
Yes, I do. I feel a little bit more certain that it is. It's got some interesting backstory for Vulcans in particular. Sort of thing you and I tend to like.
How many people do you think turned off the TV that were just the traditional, I'm watching TV and the kids are there? And then I'm like, these people are trapped in cum. I'm not letting my fucking kids see this. This is ridiculous. Click. 50% of the viewership.
I'll look up the ratings. I'll see if there was a material hit from this. But
how many people are like, I'm done with this goddamn episode? There has not been.
There is one thing, Peter. This is in 2002, before degeneracy seeped into the minds of so many because of the availability of internet pornography.
Bullshit. This was all over the fucking place back then.
I just think that maybe this would not have occurred to boomers the same way it occurs to you and me. There is that.
How, with all the lewd, shitty, derogatory behavior towards T'Pol, was she not trapped in that mess with like some lascivious, lewd close-ups of that stuff, like crawling all over her? I'm amazed that it was 3 dudes and then Jay Kelly, who you barely see. I guess bravo to a certain extent, maybe, that there was some growth there, or maybe they were like, fuck, if we put T'Pol in there, the censors are definitely
like if we're gonna do the cum monster episode, we have to not sexually abuse our main female lead.
Or if that was like the ultimatum, was like, listen, Blaylock, either you do this fucking cum episode, or if you fucking veto out, there's gonna be this Ferengi episode and like 4 other things where you're just gonna be getting hazed sexually. And she's like, I'm not getting a fucking caught in a jizz monster. Bring on the Ferengi.
All right. I'm done. I'm done with cum. You're done with cum. Next week, there will be no cum. And thanks for listening, I guess, to this. Goodbye. God. This sucks, guys.
Listen, I got to get up real early in the morning, so if you like want to get an Uber or a cab or something.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I'll leave my number on your nightstand.